Why is race still a big issue here? A, because this is where, in the Americas, is where we had the longest lasting, most extensive genocide in human history against Native Americans.
You can't even argue that. I don't know if it's the longest lasting in human history, because I haven't looked into that. I don't know if anyone knows that knowledge. But he's a doctor. He probably knows. I'm just gonna go by his word.
If you ask Americans how many tribes there are and how many Native Americans, as many people think they don't even exist anymore, and so on, right? And do you know how many tribes there are in the United States? Federally recognized tribes? Take a guess.
In America, in the rest of the world, it's not as big an issue.
Why is race a big issue?
In America, in the rest of the world, it's not as big an issue.
Okay, because look, there are two things that happened here that we're still dealing with. This is actually a really cool question. Where are you from in India, by the way? South India? Okay, so listen. Why is race still a big issue here? Because this is where, in the Americas, is where we had the longest lasting, most extensive genocide in human history against Native Americans. And we've never come to terms with that. And
I thought he was about to say something else. That's why I kind of looked at the screen like that. Against Native Americans. Okay. You can't even argue that. I don't know if it's the longest lasting in human history, because I haven't looked into that. I don't know if anyone knows that knowledge. But he's a doctor. He probably knows. I'm just gonna go by his word. But you can't even fight.
You know, to this day, if you ask Americans how many tribes there are and how many Native Americans, as many people think they don't even exist anymore, and so on, right? And do you know how many tribes there are in the United States? Federally recognized tribes? Take a guess.
13? 27?
Federally recognized or totally?
Federally recognized tribes.
2,000?
2,000? Pair up really fast. How many tribes? With your neighbor, how many tribes do you think there are federally recognized? How many, bro?
What do y'all guess? I said 13 and 27. I think I just doubled 13 and added one. I think it's probably like 45. I say 45. That's my final guess. Hey y'all, make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe.
40.
40.
200.
How many?
200.
200. How many?
I don't know.
What?
6, 7.
6, 7? Bro, how many, man?
100.
How many?
150.
150, bro.
Less than 500.
Less than 500.
About 1,000.
1,000. What do you think?
Like 300.
300?
Less than 100.
You know, this is really fascinating. Bro, because you started with 2,000, the numbers get really inflated. Because when we ask people this question, and we give them a bunch of numbers, and we start at 3, and we go to 3 and 7 and 50 and so on and so forth, the average answer will be like 15. But since you started with so many, the average answers start to go up. The answer is over almost 600, right? So
Really?
Bro, what's that? 566. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not
One
know
of
that.
the most recent was actually Pocahontas' tribe, which we all know her, one of the last to be recognized by the U.S. federal government.
So what we see, one of the issues is the longest lasting genocide in human history took place here, and it's most extensive. Like in terms of the numbers of people and in terms of how long it lasted, and human beings are still trying to deal with that. The second issue is slavery, which we've never been able to deal with. Do you want to respond to the Native American thing? Because I'm going to talk about it. Yeah.
Also, to add on to what Sam said, this country was founded on racism, and that's undisputable. I think, and when we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, that's when the idea of race was created. It was used to justify why you're dehumanizing, animalizing, and the way you treat other people. And I think, when we talk about
No. I'm sorry, no. Discrimination existed before the transatlantic slave trade. It existed in every single phase of human history. It always existed. I'm not going to say it always is going to exist, but it was something that was literally always around. If it wasn't race, it was something else. Best believe it was either a class, it was something to identify, to separate, to make you believe that you're better or worse off than someone else. It was always something. So when you say race was invented during this transatlantic slave trade, I mean, I guess, I mean, what does that mean? It kind of implies that discrimination based off of unchangeable characteristics was invented during the transatlantic slave trade, which is just not true. It's just not true. So when you go back and say, yeah, this is the cause of discrimination, this is the cause of Americans' problems. No, it always existed. Point blank period. In every single phase in history, in every single country, every single place has a history of badness. And slavery, if y'all didn't know, still exists today in different countries. They don't look at race though. They just probably look at your family's name or look at something else. It exists though, for sure. It exists. So my question is, if they don't look at racism where places do still have slaves, do they still not suffer from discrimination? Like, is it just ignored in those places? Of course not. It can't be ignored. But it still exists. It's still a problem, right?
The founding of this country and the U.S. Constitution is written in the fabric of America. And I think, other places don't have these problems because other places didn't have civil rights movements like we did in America, which tried to address that issue. But it's something that is constantly evolving because the idea of race changes based on where you're at. Like when Irish people came here, they weren't considered white until after a while, or when people from Italians either. So I think that is very complex, and I think you have to look at slavery and understand why race was created in the first place.
Dude, do you want to add to that? What's your name, bro?
It's Arsh.
Arsh.
Another thing I want to add, I'm from India too, and one of the big things, like...
Hold the mic close.
India's
Turn around toward the mic toward the camera. Wait, step this way, back up, so people in back can see your smiling face.
So India's a new country. They only gained their independence in... 1947. Yeah.
Yeah.
1947.
Dude, he's like busy, you know what I mean? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So when India broke up and what is now Pakistan, there were genocides between Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs. Both sides were just killing each other. It was a big thing, and India's come to terms with that. They've acknowledged it already. In 1984, there were anti-Sikh riots. Just a couple of months ago, India apologized for that. They accepted it. So I think that's why, like, at least for India, race isn't as huge of an issue. But in the U.S., like, trust me, I love this country because I see the potential in it, and I can compare it to India. But in the U.S., the war on drugs, war on black people, the war on drugs, slavery, there's so many issues that have just not been talked about by our government. Even today, the war on drugs just keeps capturing, targeting a specific race of people, and it's just not, there's so many issues that aren't coming out to light because the government doesn't bring them out to light. And for me personally, when I compare India and the U.S., I think that's why race is such a big deal here. My family...
Okay, here's what I would say about this. It's a lot to say, man. When you talk about coming to terms with certain ideals or coming to terms with certain beliefs in our country and the war on... I'm not going to speak on the war on drugs because I don't know anything about that. War on drugs. I thought that was in like Ronald Reagan time. But anyways, when you talk about the war on black people, I say when it comes to black people on earth, there isn't a better country on earth for black people than America, in my eyes. That's what I think. And if you disagree, please let me know in the comments why you disagree or if you find a better place. But even in your situation, you talk about India not having racial discrimination, which I don't know a lot about. If you said it's true, I think it's true. I still think India as a country may have other issues that aren't necessarily race but are something else. But I digress. And India has come to terms with this. My thing is, what does coming to terms mean to you? When it comes to terms, when it means to come to terms to an issue, what I hear, what I would want is I would want equal opportunity. I would want, a back pay. Probably a back pay of some sort, just equal opportunity. I want to be able to have the same chances as other people do in my specific country or in this specific country. And I would say black people do have fair chances. They do have equal chances compared to other races in this country. Because I would argue that just because you are black in America does not mean that you are automatically destined to have a worse off experience in this country. And people who do believe that that's true are the reason why a lot of other races in, for example, affirmative action cases are being discriminated against. Because they will look at black people and say, just because you are black, you automatically have a worse off chance. And because of that, we'll give you a higher likelihood of getting into said institution. However, when you have that idea or that outlook, you're ignoring economic stance, you're ignoring your family's history, you're ignoring other factors that are not related to skin color. So when he says coming to terms with it, I would argue we have came to terms with it. We just define it as something differently. Coming to terms with it doesn't mean you say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Y'all still not going to have the same chances as us. Y'all still not going to have the same opportunity as us. Y'all still not even going to have a good life. But I'm sorry. Whatever. I think coming to terms would be better off saying, okay, we're all going to be equal now. We're all going to be equal. You get the same opportunity. You have the chance of having the same life. And I think America is making strides or has already done that for my group of people, because there is no better place for us on this earth right now. And we all live, or if you work hard, I think, regardless of your race, you can have a good life.
Ask me the same question all the time. And I think
How is it so big? Yeah. How is it so? Yo, very cool, man. Thanks, bro. Here's where I would say, listen.
Okay, that's the end of the video, but I would say, what does it mean to come to terms? How would you define it? And if you have any more suggestions for me, comment down below.